Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Jacob Wile, too.
And welcome to a very highly anticipated installment of Tiki's Universe, the show where we recap and respawn to all kinds of animated programming, because I'm not even going to bother to go through the list of what we do, because this is like the biggest thing that we've ever talked about, Jacob. We are talking about the DuckTales 2017 reboot. The series premiere being woohoo, appropriately enough.
Remember how you were saying that you wish that would be the series' subtitle? Well, you kind of got your wish.
a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, holy heck, Jacob. Wow. Let me just say, like, this is one of the single most hyped up pieces of animation I've ever experienced in all my years of Disney fandom. This is like including Disney movies and stuff like that. Like, the hype for this thing has been off the wall. People are just going nuts for this thing. And I think Disney is really doing a great job of marketing it. I think they had a great catch of, airing it for 24 hours straight the day it premiered. Oh my god!
And before they even announced the premiere date, which was yesterday, appropriately enough, they already revealed they renewed it for a second season.
I think there's going to be a lot more than a second season.
I think they pretty much greenlit the entire series as like you'll tell your story until it ends, basically.
But here's the thing, Jacob. I think there's going to be a lot more than just DuckTales. I think I was just watching Andre from Black Nerd Comedy talk about this. I'm really, really convinced that if they play their cards right, we could see a Tailspin show. We could see, obviously, Darkwing Duck is the most obvious spinoff for this, which that's going to happen at some point. I wouldn't be surprised to see Darkwing Duck in as soon as 2019. But, we got Tailspin. We've got some references to Goof Troop, oddly enough.
It's like in the same episode they mentioned Cape Suzette, Spoonerville, and St. Canard, all within the first 10 minutes of the episode.
Right. So it's like, okay, Disney is clearly going all in on this whole Disney afternoon thing, connecting it all. Anyways, Jacob, wow, a lot to get into. Not a lot of time. Let's just get straight into kind of our expectations going in and thoughts coming out. Why do you start?
Well, obviously, I mean, going in, kind of a lot of new cartoons, and including. I was actually kind of hesitant when I first heard about it, when they didn't even release anything. It's like, hey, we're redoing DuckTales. Basically when they just said they're redoing DuckTales.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even have any cast members or crew yet. They just said, yeah, we're doing it.
Right.
So, and like I said, I can't exactly say I have a hardcore nostalgia for the original series. I kind of watched it a while ago. And I did, and obviously I did have a respect for it. But I was kind of intrigued to see how this would go forward. But obviously I'm cautiously optimistic considering the status of reboots in both movies and TV series nowadays, or continuations and all that. But coming out of it, however, I can definitely say if the rest of the series is as good as this, we're definitely in for a heck of a series.
Yeah. So let me just set the tone on my end. I am kind of like, I am a huge DuckTales fan. I really am. For me, most of my childhood nostalgia comes from the movie, actually, which, by the way, sweet reference. We got the lamp of Kali Baba.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yep. I was like, oh, there it is. Anyway.
They also have the Treasure of the Golden Suns.
Right. Oh my god, so much. Anyways, the TV show, I always kind of like, yeah, it's not the greatest thing in the world. The character development is pretty paper thin. That we always kind of joked, like Huey, Dewey, and Louie as characters, it's almost just like one character spread out over three. But the original did have a special place in my heart in terms of just the serialized nature of it. And the story arcs and whatnot, like Gizmo Duck and stuff like that. just like I said, I think the movie is kind of like much like Mask of the Phantasm is basically like DuckTales is basically like Batman the Animated Series in its prime. Like you can't get better than that. I also feel like the DuckTales movie is also like kind of DuckTales in its prime, like the best that DuckTales ever was.
Ironically, they're both written by the same person.
Really, Mask of the Phantasm and Treasure of the Lost Lamp? Are you serious?
Alan Burnett.
Oh my God! Oh
Yeah,
wow! There you go.
He at least did, I know he wrote the screenplay for Lost Lamp, but I think he at least did the story and part of the screenplay for Mask of the Phantasm.
Well, that just tickles me, Jacob. All right, I had no idea. I'll have to bring that up with Dragon because Dragon worships Mask of the Phantasm. Anyways, so Jacob, here's the thing though. Going into it, like the hype for this thing was getting so big that it was concerning the hell out of me. I was just like, okay, there's no way this thing's going to live up to all the hype. Like, you know, and like this thing, they're definitely like trying to get some Gravity Falls influences into it with the mystery element to it. And also Webby, as much as I was sold on that character, definitely seems like she comes from the Mabel Pines factory that Star Butterfly also came out of, I think. But anyways, Jacob, I basically put my reservations just completely on hold. I pumped the brakes entirely on my hype for this thing pretty much after Comic-Con. So basically for the last, like 3 weeks or so, I've just kind of been on radio silence about it, where it's like, yeah, it's coming. I don't even want to think about it, because I have such a love for the original and I am hyped for it, but I don't want that hype to go away. God, Jacob. Wow. This thing, I'm just going to call it right now. This might be bold to say, but I think just based on the 42 minutes that we saw of this thing, or 47 minutes, or however long these 2 episodes, this 2-parter was, this might be better than anything out of the original series, just in terms of writing and character and just the fluidity of it and the animation. I'm in love, Jacob. I'm almost kind of speechless. Like, this is like, to me, this is like a lifetime achievement of like, hype meaning the reality. You know what I mean? Like, this is more than I hyped this up to be. I think the writing on this is so sharp. I think the characters are just all so well realized. I think the potential for storytelling moving forward is all there. Oh God, I'm kind of gushing. I'm kind of gushing right now. I really am. This is just everything I wanted it to be.
and more.
It really is. It's incredible.
The impossible. Let's just say these people were given the impossible task of creating something new, but also something that stays true to the original beloved series and also the original comic books, while also maintaining its own identity.
Absolutely. The one thing I will say about it, the one slight reservation I have about it, is that even though I do really like the fact that Huey, Dewey, and Louie are, it's separated, like they are clear, they're all clear individual characters. Of course, we got episode 2 kind of centered on Dewey, so far he's kind of out in the forefront, but I'm sure we'll also get character-centric episodes for Huey and Louie as well as we go on. I'm sure they'll all get character-centric episodes. My one tiny reservation with this series is that these 3 characters, as good as their personalities are and as individual as they are, they might be the one thing that dates this show just a tiny bit, because they are a little bit in the kind of mold of like a current, like 2017 kid. You know what I mean?
Kind of, but the kids are always changing. I mean, as you said, I still have to say it is better than them being one entity.
Yeah, right. Where the original, it was just the original Huey, Dewey, and Louie might have been more timeless, but my God, God help us if we can get one personality out of those 3 characters. You know what I mean?
And again, what I like about that is like they're all similar, but they're different enough that they like bounce off each other and the others without like missing a beat.
Mm-hmm. And Jacob, let's kind of just disregard that list of the characters we have. Let's just kind of like flow naturally through the characters as we get to them. We don't have to go in any specific order with them.
We basically just discuss the nephews.
Yeah, exactly.
We do them individually, like talk about like, or should we just like skip over them or what?
No. I mean, yeah, with the nephews, like I said, Dewey is the one that's kind of had the most focus so far, just because episode 2 was kind of centered around him in a way.
Well, yeah, I did notice that. I mean, it's kind of interesting that they decided to focus on Dewey of all things. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just pretty interesting that they like showed that there's already a clear connection between him and Scrooge.
Yeah, definitely, and I like that because I feel like in a way, Dewey's personality is kind of like in the middle of Huey and Louie, where Louie's kind of like the less serious, almost kind of like Michelangelo of the group, you know what I mean, where he's always slacking off. And then Huey is almost kind of like the blossom of the group, where he's almost too much of a, I could see Scrooge kind of like with, Scrooge is like prim and proper, but with a mix of a wild side. And I think that's kind of like what Dewey's going for. He's right in the middle of those two.
Yeah, it's like kind of ironic because he was the one that like he couldn't remember Dewey's name.
Huey, Dewey, Bluey.
Like Huey, Louie, the third one.
The third one. Bluey just especially cracked me up though.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the relationship with Donald.
Oh, dear God. Jacob, this is the thing. There are so many good characters on this show, and they all just bounce off each other so incredibly well. Yeah, I mean, Donald Duck, man. Like, never have we seen Donald Duck in such a domesticated kind of Mr. Mom type situation. But it works out so well, you know what I mean? Because he's still the Donald Duck we know and love, but he's just trying so hard to be a serious adult as well. Go ahead.
And never in the form of animation have we seen him in this kind of range of emotions and like in a single time frame.
I've got to say, the stapler gag was just so relatable. I just the frustration, just the building frustration in that gag.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Oh yeah.
It's like he's trying to deal with these 3 rambunctious nephews of his. Something happened to their mom, which we don't know.
Oh God! Oh, so many possibilities.
Yeah, probably most likely something to do with Scrooge.
Yep, most likely.
But he's like, sometimes we have to do things we don't. Sometimes we have to do things we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they combine like the best elements from his animated incarnations, but also the best incarnations of his Barks personality, the more adventurous and noble personality.
And it's very interesting, like, in terms of the casting, because Donald might be one of the only people who, they're using a voice actor who he's not from the original show, I don't think, but they're carrying him over from other work, Tony Anselmo.
Like, Tony Anselmo's, one of his earliest Donald roles was the first few episodes of DuckTales.
Okay. I wasn't sure if he was in DuckTales or not. Okay. Just checking.
The few episodes he was in that was 3 years into his Donald voice.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so Tony Anselmo is the one holdover from the original series. But even then, I feel like he's changing up his performance a little bit.
And I think they also confirmed Corey Burton as Ludwig von Drake.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to that. Okay. Oh my God.
I don't know I don't know if that's confirmed or anything, but if they're bringing him in, it's most likely going to be Corey Burton.
Corey Burton, of course, because Corey Burton is just he's like Paul Frees 2. He's like Paul Frees the sequel.
I like how he's just you immediately saw so many layers to Donald in this. He's the caring parent, but he's also incredibly frustrated by the simplest things.
And he's haunted by his past too, which oh God, that's such a cool element to him.
I mean, just by the way he says, hey, sometimes you gotta do things we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can just tell he's I really don't want to go talk to Scrooge right now.
Part of me kind of hopes that they touch on his military background in the show. I mean, you know me, Jacob. I think that Donald Duck being the propaganda poster child of the war is arguably the single most fascinating element of Disney history for me if I had to pick just one. So I would love to see his military background be referenced at some point.
Yep, that would be pretty interesting.
But
I mean,
You see what I mean about Tony Anselmo kind of changing up his performance, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's definitely showing like a wider range. Instead of just, the standard, either regular voice or angry voice. It's like showing like, like frustration, sadness almost.
Right.
Something that Tony Anselmo really hasn't gotten to do a lot.
No. And yeah, it's all
something really Clarence Nash didn't get to do either.
No, not at all. Clarence Nash basically had a voice, right? Like he could do a voice, and that was it. I mean, I'm not knocking Clarence Nash. I'm just saying, like, like that's the capacity to which the studio used him. Anyways, Jacob, I say let's stop beating around the bush here. Let's get into the man himself, Scrooge.
The main man.
David Tennant. Jesus Christ. My God. He completely reinvents this character, I think.
I mean, how he can like go from like being like this, like, high-pitched voice to like, things are okay, to like, to your rooms.
Right. And I love how Scrooge does have an air of kind of intimidation to him, especially in the early part of this episode.
Like, fantastic.
Of course, no one's going to replace Alan Young as the classic Scrooge McDuck, and we're not expecting him to. No, but yeah, just in terms of the cadence to his performance, like I said, he's not even remotely trying to do an Alan Young impression, which I love.
He's doing his own thing. He's trying to make his own Scrooge voice. Like it's like but the thing is, like both Alan Young's voice and David Tennant's voice fit perfectly with this version of the character.
I mean, it's almost as if David Tennant was just a huge fanboy of the comic version of Scrooge and had somehow never heard Alan Young's performance, and then he just came in with his completely, like you said, Jacob, it just fits so well. It's just like, it sounds nothing like Alan Young, but it fits like a glove into this version.
Apparently, David Tennant once joked that he should be paying them to let him voice Scrooge. So it tells you
right, for sure.
It tells you how into this thing he is.
And of course, David Tennant. I mean, Dragon and I, we both absolutely love him on Jessica Jones. He's one of the most fun elements of the entire Marvel Netflix series universe so far.
And now he's Scrooge McDuck. Definitely, it's a role that surprisingly suits him.
It really does. It really does. I mean, he's just got the gravitas for it. I mean, he really just gives it his all. He's taking it very seriously.
And speaking of Scrooge and Donald, what about that driveway scene?
Well, that's the thing, Jacob. I love how there is so much rich character stuff between these two just in the first time they interact. It's just the potential for storytelling and character development with these two is huge because the first time they interact, you just can tell the history.
It's just like you can cut the tension with a knife. You could probably cut it with a spoon.
Oh, man. Folks, I'm sorry if I'm fanboying out here. It's just, it really is that good for me.
But it also drops the hint that that triplets had no idea that they were related to the world's richest duck.
Sure, yeah.
Because how they said Uncle Scrooge. they're like, oh my God, we're related to Scrooge McDuck. That tells you something. Donald didn't even bother to tell them that that's their uncle up there.
Right. Oh my God.
That definitely means something big went down between them.
All right, so going into let's talk about the rest of the people in the mansion. So we have Mrs. Beakley, who, yeah, I love her too. Just I love everyone. Jacob, it's just a big love fest in here.
She's like a cross between the housekeeping Mrs. Beakley and Duckworth.
I have some theories about Duckworth that we can get into, but
well, Duckworth they did apparently confirm Duckworth to be appearing, so
I think we're going to see a younger version of Duckworth as like an intern of Scrooge or something like that. That's my theory on him.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
Because, like you said, I think this version of Mrs. Beakley just totally basically renders Duckworth's role proper, kind of moot. because she is such a great she's, you know what she is? She's almost like modeled in the great sort of like, you know, the Alfred Pennyworths that are like the badass, you know, take charge and kick ass and take names Alfred Pennyworths that we see sometimes in the comics. The one where the Alfred military background is really spotlighted.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting take on Mrs. Beakley.
Mm-hmm. And
I mean, she's able to throw a pen through a wall. I mean, seriously.
Okay, I'm just gonna like throw this out there. Like, this is just baseless speculation, all right? But wouldn't it be awesome if Donald and Beakley actually served in the military together at some point?
Well, it does imply that he knows her.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
That would be pretty interesting.
I could see this version of Beakley being like a trailblazer in the, you know, in the military, like one of the first female Navy people. You know what I mean? I don't know. Oh God, there's so much potential here. And okay, let's get into Webby because, yeah, like I said, Webby does come from the same, like, you know, Mabel Pines school of, you know, like adorable, quirky female characters. But what can I say? She's great. Complete reinvention of the character from top to bottom. You know, what was once the worst element of the show is now one of the best elements of the show, in my opinion. I was hyped about this character from the previews, and my hype has not gone down. Go ahead.
Total fangirl now.
Which I love. Because, like I said, it's not the most original take on this character because it is basically just applying the Mabel Pines aesthetic to her.
Even Mabel Pines wasn't really that original when she came out. I mean, there were a lot of characters like her before that.
True. But whatever works. I don't know. She's just got such a personality now. And I'm really excited to see her bounce off the nephews, because the thing with the original show is that the dynamic with Webby and the nephews just never changed at all, right? It was always just the very stale, like, oh, we don't like girls, you know, and Webby trying to get in on the adventures and them just kind of pushing her away. And in this, they accept her almost immediately, which I can love.
After she captures them.
Right. It's like, you know, Kathleen Kennedy, I'm sorry to go back to this well, but Kathleen Kennedy, take notes. This is how you write a kick-ass female character who has her own identity, all right? This is how you do it and make it work so well.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's all so good, Jacob. It's all so good. I'm literally like flustered right now. I feel like I'm talking to a girl I have a crush on when I'm talking about this show.
It's that good.
Oh man. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I could go on about Webby. Okay, first of all, I love the dynamic she has with her grandmother. I love that they maintain that, and that Mrs. Beakley is still just as overprotective about Webby as she was in the original series, except at the end of the episode, we kind of reached the nice conclusion where it's basically like, oh, you'd be more safe with Scrooge McDuck on an adventure than you would be locked inside a vault at Fort Knox. So, no line, but go anywhere you want with him.
Yeah, so at least she's understanding of that, but yeah, I wonder how that would fit into Mrs. Beakley's future roles. like, what would she do?
I have a feeling that Mrs. Beakley is going to be overseeing a lot of the business side of the McDuck operation, and that's where we're going to see like I could see her going toe to toe with Guam Gold, for example.
Speaking of Guam Gold,
I mean, I guess we can get into him now. I kind of want to get into Launchpad first and save Guam Gold for last.
Well, let's do Launchpad.
Because Jesus Christ,
Launchpad's amazing.
Yeah. And once again, a high bar to measure up to from the original series. Everyone loves Launchpad McQuack. And it's too early to say that this version's better. But like I said, in the 47 minutes that we got him, he's already displayed more of a range of comedy than we ever got. Because basically the original show is just like Launchpad's dumb and Launchpad crashes planes. Right?
Here's more like definitely more into the action and physical comedy than usually in the old adventures usually did stay behind.
Right, yeah.
Demand the plane for a getaway.
Exactly.
But here's like actually taking part in some of the action.
Beck Bennett, here's the thing with Beck Bennett, all right? Like, he is kind of, like, I don't think he reinvents the role the same way that the same way that Tennant does. And I will say he is funny, but I don't really think he distinguishes his performance as much as Tennant. And maybe that's just being unfair because Tennant is just, like, goddamn Shakespearean with what he does with Scrooge. But, I don't know. Like Beck Bennett, he does do a good job, though. He does do a very fine job with Launchpad. He is very funny. He does have good timing, and maybe over time, this will, it'll kind of, because Terry McGovern. I mean, what can you say? That is Terry McGovern as Launchpad McQuack is like one of the staples of '80s voice acting. You know what I mean?
I mean, considering he was both in DuckTales and Darkwing Duck.
Right. It's like Terry McGovern is Launchpad McQuack is like on the Mount Rushmore of like iconic 80s cartoon performances. It's like that voice is just so ingrained, like even more so than Alan Young as Scrooge McDuck. So yeah, it's going to be a tough act to follow. But Beck Bennett, man, I think he does. I think he can do it. I think he can. And just the writing on him is really sharp.
Yeah, it's like, especially like I'm a pilot.
Well, I love that they expand his role because he's basically Scrooge's chauffeur, and he's like not necessarily his pilot.
Yeah, that kind of takes like taking something from Duckworth, because Duckworth did all that did all the driving and the original stuff too. He's his driver, like he already knows.
Exactly, poor Duckworth.
Yep.
That's why I think that Duckworth is going to be an intern, because this version of Duckworth is basically going to have to work himself up from the bottom. Like, we've already put Duckworth in a position of, not being needed before he's even come onto the scene.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I'd like the lead up to the whole pilot thing. He's like, since when is Launchpad a pilot?
I'm a pilot.
Like, you didn't hear him like the 4 times he told him. Okay,
and then let's see. Oh, God, remind me how he gets all messed up in part 2.
The snake bites.
Yeah, the snake bites. Oh, God. That is just such razor-sharp comedy right there, Jacob. Like, I can't even repeat it, all right? It just speaks for itself, folks. If you've seen the episode, you know what we're talking about. Just the timing on it, the delivery, that's where Beck Bennett is definitely at his best, is when he's in snake bite mode. Oh, my God.
He's like, hey, look at me, I'm everybody's friend.
Oh my, it's so good. It's so funny.
And then passing off as a Swedish uncle.
yes, right. Oh, God.
Some people said it's actually fluent Swedish. I have no idea though.
I would totally believe that if it was.
Oh,
God. Wow. Okay, so yeah, let's get to Guam Gold. Nice to see him show up in this premiere, of course. I wasn't really sure if this premiere was basically just going to be all like adventure, or if we were going to get an element of Guam Gold in there. And it was nice that we, already are starting to set up Scrooge's rogues gallery. Of course, we got a reference to Ma Beagle as well.
Yep. Guam Gold. Yeah, this Guam Gold is going to be a pretty interesting character, because it's heavily implying, and I think what I've read is that he's not actually Scottish.
Oh, God. But he takes on the Scottish nationality like way more than Scrooge does by always wearing the kilt and everything.
He's like, you think you're so rich and so Scottish? Well, I'm wearing a kilt, McDuck, a kilt.
So basically what I'm getting out of that then, Jacob, is that Guam Gold is essentially trying to market himself, right? Like, and him being Scottish is sort of like his thing. Like his brand.
Well, the thing is, in the original comics, the original Guam Gold actually was of South African. He was from South Africa.
Oh, interesting, huh?
But due to apartheid going on at the time, and to make him a better match for Scrooge for the DuckTales series, they made him Scottish.
Right. Gotcha.
To avoid issues with South Africa and it's a better thematic match for Scrooge.
But I think an even more interesting thematic match for Scrooge, like you said, is this whole idea of like this guy who is just marketing off of Scottish culture just for the sake of his brand.
Pretty much, he's like, yeah, because having a possibly fake Scottish accent, and also wearing a kilt automatically makes you Scottish, apparently.
Of course, I love the design of Guam Gold. We talked about this when we were going through one of the trailers, I think.
Like how he theorized that actually was him.
Which I was pretty sure it was, and it turned out to be correct. But I just love the way that he very much distinguishes himself from the original Guam Gold, where the original Guam Gold was more or less just like an evil version of Scrooge in terms of design. Like he had the little like white goatee thing, if I remember.
Here he's basically like the exact opposite of Scrooge, and like
right.
where Scrooge is like the tall and lanky, he's fat.
Of course, I love the scheme right off the bat, to basically employ Donald specifically to use Donald against Scrooge. Like that's just classic Guam Gold, right? Like just the whole elaborate nature of which he's going about screwing over Scrooge.
And even Scrooge admits it. Admittedly, it is good planning.
Of course, we'd be remiss to not mention the Guam Gold employee training video, which was hysterical.
It's like there was no employee or training in that video at all. It's basically him saying, "I take my ideas from other people, and I'm great."
Right. Oh my god, so much good stuff. Okay, so Jacob, do you want to actually talk about the mysteries and the monsters in this episode too? Because, like I said, there's so much good character stuff that we get a pretty damn good monster storyline in episode 1, and a pretty damn good, or part 1, I should say, and a pretty damn good adventure storyline in part 2. And yeah, it's just the characters that I keep raving about because they're just so well developed. So let's quickly go over just I guess mostly just the designs. Of course, we saw as I was kind of live tweeting my reactions to you, and I was like, oh wow, this is kind of awesome seeing all these characters from the trailer, all these monsters like the Chinese dragon and shoot, help me out, Jacob. What were some of the other ones?
Well, there's the Peghook the pirate.
Right, the pirate ghost. Right. Of course.
And also the headless man horse.
The headless man horse. That might have been my favorite. Oh my god. So yeah, that was just a very clever kind of opening sort of action set piece to show how badass Scrooge can be, especially to the nephews and everything, kind of prove that Webby's right about his adventuring. And
the nephews are basically saying trying to protect Scrooge because no, you're old.
Let's see. I love the gag about the gong. Oh, don't worry, boys. This the curse only goes off if you hit it 3 times.
You already did that, didn't you?
Something tells me you already hit it 2 times. God, really funny stuff there. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about the action set pieces because, like I said, this whole show just does such a great job of the action is fun.
For a lot of people complaining about the animation of it, just look at this episode and say you were proven wrong.
Well, yeah, I've always been one of those people where as soon as I saw the first, that infamous first still that we saw of Donald, Scrooge, and the nephews in the Jeep, I was like, yep, that's perfect because it's distinguishing itself. It's not classic Disney afternoon style. It's more in line with the comic books. I love it.
Yep. And one thing about it, they're even using halftones, which is pretty neat. Saying it's straight out of a moving comic book.
Yeah, no, the style of it is really, really great. And yeah, it just serves itself so well to the fluidity of the animation. It really is probably the best looking thing that's been on Disney XD since Gravity Falls, just in terms of the style and everything.
Yeah, it's really like it has its own distinctive look and everything. It's like matches itself to the comics very well, and even has its own visual look, which is and ties into the very fluid animation. Like some people say, it like looks more simplistic, but it allows for much more exaggerated action set pieces and spectacular. And what the original series was known for, but it taken up a notch.
Right. And also, is like basically working on the thing that the original series was not known for at all, which was rich character development. And working that into the action in a very naturalistic kind of way.
Yep.
All right. I almost have nothing to say about the Atlantis storyline because, like I said, it's all character stuff within that section.
It's kind of interesting that they chose Atlantis as the first set piece, because pretty much everything, and a lot of places, a lot of shows have done Atlantis. But it's interesting that they did something new with it. Like it's upside down, all these set pieces.
I really like the idea of Atlantis being upside down. That is one of the cool, like, world building elements I liked.
And it does make sense too.
It does, yeah, for sure. I mean, if a whole civilization is going to sink to the bottom of the ocean, of course it's going to flip at some point.
So yeah, I mean that was actually like, and the whole conclusion, with the real jewel of Atlantis was actually a very smart idea. Like that's what you can call this episode. You call it a very smart episode.
And I also kind of like the fact that Atlantis was a lost civilization, right? Like we didn't see like the the Little Mermaid or the Atlanteans or anything. Not that I was expecting a cameo or anything, but you know what I mean? Like we didn't see any Atlantis civilization. Like it's just a ruined city underwater. There's no mythical element to it beyond that.
Barring a few skeletons.
Right, of course.
Okay. What I like about that in particular is that like it showed actually gave hints about Donald's explorer adventure past. Like he knew exactly what to do with that shield.
Right.
Like what was going to happen, like, and how to block the water. Like he knew exactly what was going on.
Okay. And of course I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You get what I'm saying, right? Like
yeah.
That set piece where Dewey was like teasing across the bridge, like it showed like, yeah, he knows what's going on. Yeah. Okay.
All right. I think I've pretty much run the gambit on things to say about this. I mean, it's, kind of course, except going into sort of speculation mode.
And it's like, yeah, but the whole ending is like the fact that they tried to escape earlier and ended up blowing up Donald's house.
Right.
And that's what leads to them actually being invited to live there by Scrooge.
It's like, well, that's one way to establish a status quo.
Pretty much. It's like, yep, their house is destroyed, so I have to live with Scrooge now. You can tell Donald was like not very happy. I don't think even Scrooge was too pleased.
Oh no, I think Scrooge was probably even less pleased than Donald was.
It's like they're both doing it for the sake of the
exactly.
It's like that's something they both can build on. Like they both have Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
So, like I said, it's the relationship between Donald and Scrooge that I think is going to be the heart of this show in a lot of ways. Like that is definitely the most potential I can see being mined in terms of character development. Like the biggest character arc is between those two.
It's probably not going to be entirely pleasant either.
No, which I like. There is like, especially given the ending.
It's like earlier in the episode, they thought they saw a painting, which triplets saw a picture they thought was fake, which was Donald and Scrooge fighting some pirates.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, if you notice, happened to be the pirate that they fought later out of that treasure chest.
Right.
But then later at the end of the episode, after they probably possibly realized that his adventure past was actually true, Dewey lifts up the painting and realizes someone else is on the painting. Della Duck, their mother.
Duck.
Which that one line alone opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, and I can totally see the whole season mystery being built around that in a very natural way, and I'm totally into it.
It's heavily implied that their disappearance and that her disappearance and or death has something to do with Scrooge. And
Right,
Donald,
right.
Donald really, I don't think either of them have really forgiven themselves about it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good, just very, very good hook. You know, like, oh, you think you liked all the character setup? Well, here, have a mystery to chew on. No, I would. You know, it's like compared to Gravity Falls. It might not be the punch in the gut that the ending of the Gravity Falls pilot was. You know, but it's still a very, very good hook.
It's like, what did happen in the past?
Mm. All right, I guess the only other thing to do, Jacob's kind of speculate on the episodes down the line. So unfortunately, because it's Disney XD, and this is just the way Disney XD likes to do things, I'm so glad that Rick and Morty is actually having the sense to air their episodes like, okay, episode 2, you know, of course they did the April Fool's thing, but then it's like episode 2, 1 week, episode 3, the next week, episode 4, the week after that. My God. But anyways, I digress. So we're getting the next one on September 23rd, and it's actually going to be the next 2. We have Day Trip of Doom, and then also The Great Dime Chase, which I have a feeling is going to have something to do with Scrooge's lucky dime.
Probably, most likely.
And then episode 4, which comes out a week later on September 30th, is The Beagle Birthday Massacre.
Yay. Gonna finally get to meet the Beagle Boys.
Right. Also, Jacob, just a very, very quick, you know, let's just kind of like pay a bit of respect to the late, great June Foray, who, of course, was not only Ma Beagle, but also Magica Dispel as well. She was such a great part of the original DuckTales, you know, almost up there with Alan Young and Terry McGovern, you know, in terms of how iconic she was in the performance.
She was just 4 months, like a couple months shy of being 100 years old.
Yeah.
She'd been doing this since the early 30s.
And June Foray, I mean, you know, talk about Mount Rushmore. Like, if there's a Mount Rushmore for any voice acting, period, she's got to be on it. I mean, she just, my God, what a career.
And
what a trailblazing career.
And Granny, Rocky Squirrel.
Just crazy. Just the list goes, it's just insane how much she did and how, you know, and how influential she was.
And many other parts in between.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just want to bring up June Foray, you know, of course, going into, like, you know, getting Ma Beagle and hopefully Magica Dispel as well. I'm sure there'll be good interpretations. The woman playing Ma Beagle it's a very hard to pronounce name. It's
Margot Martindale. Isn't that who it is?
Oh, is it Margot Martindale?
I think so. I think she does something in this.
You know what? I think I'm sorry. I'm reading the credits, and the woman with the very hard to pronounce name is actually the woman who plays Mrs. Beakley.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce her name either.
Right. Yeah, my bad.
It's like Togs Olagundoya.
That's, yeah, close enough. But no, I mean, if Margot Martindale is playing Ma Beagle, I gotta say that's a fucking fantastic bit of casting right there. That fits like a glove. But not necessarily for Magica, but, you know, hopefully they'll get someone else for Magica, but definitely for Ma Beagle. Anyways.
They haven't even announced Magica yet.
Right. They might be saving Magica for season 2.
That would be interesting. Like she's the season's arch villain.
Yeah, exactly. Like how this season is more about kind of the paths between Scrooge and Donald, and then next season, like, and of course, Guam Gold is going to be the main antagonist, I'm guessing. And then next season, we could get into, you know, into Magica and into some of the more supernatural elements of DuckTales.
Or they could pretty much announce her as like midway through the season. Who knows?
You know what I'm waiting for, Jacob?
What?
Just a very, 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 like, dark and gritty take on Bubba Duck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez.
Like a Bubba Duck with, like, a ton of layers to him.
Deep. Bubba Deep.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay,
Bubba,
Jacob. Oh
Bubba
my
has layers like onion.
god. All right, Jacob. I think that's about all she wrote in terms of this. That's about all I got. Do you have any other final thoughts?
Yeah. No, I mean, other than pretty much what I said earlier, if the rest of this series is as good or surpasses this, we're in for quite a treat.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it is possible that they just blew the entire season on this one episode, and the rest is just not going to measure up to it. I mean, I have seen that happen before with series, but I doubt that's going to happen with this because I just think the whole team behind this, all the cast, is just the enthusiasm, the respect for the source material, both the original show and the comic book, is just oozing off the screen. I think we're in for a treat.
I mean, it has a great cast and crew behind it, so
Mhm.
we're clearly putting all their hearts into this.
And hopefully this is just the start of like an entire like extended Disney afternoon universe, because I think that's very much where Disney wants to go with it.
I mean, they even did the collection of games recently.
Exactly. Right,
So
right.
they might be bringing the afternoon back.
Oh god, I want to see an episode of this show where they go to the moon and they use the moon theme.
That'd be great.
Anyways, all right, folks, I think that's about all she wrote. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We're still behind on Star. We're going to do the whole Battle from Beauty arc as one podcast. We just need to figure out a time that's going to work for both Jacob and I. It's harder to schedule than you might think, especially talking about 8 episodes. But what I can pretty much guarantee you is that we will be talking about Rick and Morty tomorrow, Jacob, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I mean, most likely. I mean, the episode's gone tonight, so most
Yeah,
likely.
I mean, I know we didn't formally talk about it before we went on, but yeah, we'll probably be talking about that tomorrow.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
All right, and the only other word I have to say about this is just woo freaking who. I'm a pilot.